Hi, everybody. This is Andrea Paquette, President and co-founder of the Stigma-Free Society. Thank you so much for joining us for our Facebook Live event. We haven't done one in a little while, and very excited today as we have an astounding guest. And I would like to welcome Jasbir Hundal. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing well. Just really excited to chat with you. We had a former conversation, um, just like I think it was last week, and I really felt that you would be a great guest to talk about youth and future ready minds and a variety of topics. So, very excited about that. And for everybody who doesn't particularly know about or familiar with the Stigma Free Society, we are a Canadian registered charity based in Vancouver with national momentum. And we really focus on awareness of various stigmas, understanding of people's differences, and the acceptance of ourselves and other people. So that is our philosophy. All right, so I'm going to jump right in, Jazz, and I'm going to share your bio. Sound
Sure.
pretty good?
Yeah, sounds good.
Perfect. Okay. Jazz Hundal is a registered social worker with a Master of Social Work from the University of Victoria and a certificate in advanced facilitation. Oh, consultation from the Justice Institute of BC. I got that. She is the president of the Fraser River branch of the BC Association of Social Workers. Jazz also provides clinical supervision to students from Yorkville University and Sprott Shaw College, who in turn provide free counseling to clients. She is trained in a range of treatment modalities such as EMDR, CBT, DBT, my favorite, dialectical behavioral therapy, very useful, not just for borderline personality disorder, but also bipolar,
Mhm.
and mindfulness, which is also very amazing. And she's also worked diligently in the field of mental health and addictions since 2006. So you have quite an array of experience. She is also the new clinical director of counseling for future ready minds. So that's quite the bio, and I think there's a lot to talk about here.
Yeah.
And but first and foremost, I was really wanting to acquaint our audience with you. And
Mhm.
perhaps you could share a little bit about yourself and what inspired you to get into the field of mental health and wellness.
Yeah, so I mean, it was definitely something that I kind of fell into. In 2001, my father got diagnosed with a terminal illness. So that started us constantly going to the hospital, consistently having to navigate the medical system, which we never had done. So it involved me providing a lot of translation, being the go-to between the doctors and the nurses, and basically realizing that being a social worker kind of she would be our saving grace because she would sit down with us and explain the process and be that go-to person. And it kind of sparked my interest because I knew that I always wanted to go into a healthcare profession. So I had looked into nursing. Once I had met I was like, no, this is what I want to do. I want to actually be that go-to person and be that advocate for people who are kind of lost within those systems.
Yeah, yeah. Perfect. And I was also wondering if you could talk us through the trajectory of your career and how you got to where you are today.
So in the beginning, I wanted to work with youth. So my goal was to be a youth probation officer. And those positions were very difficult to come by because no one ever let them. So somebody said to me, if you go into child protection, you'll get that experience. So once I graduated, I started my role on the Aboriginal Family Services team here in Surrey. And I did that for about probably about a year. And then things changed where somebody said, well, if you had experience in adult probation, you would also qualify to get into the youth probation officer role. So I thought, okay, I'll try that out. And it turns out that I spent the next 10 years working as an adult probation officer. So I just loved it. Through that role, I got to work in the institute where I was an instructor. I was able to train suppliers and really look at the role of corrections is important. And once I started to see sort of the structures and the systems, and once people enter into whether it's family services, whether it's child protection, whether it's healthcare, whether it's probation, what barriers that they face.
Yeah.
And mental health became because people with substance use were told, hey, go get help with your mental health first. And people with mental health issues were told, oh, this is a substance use problem. So there was this list of people not being able to go here, not being able to go here. And that sort of formed my role within my work as well, because I started looking at concerned disorders. And I started looking at the relationship and how we can't really just put people into one category. We have to be a little bit more open to looking at various perspectives and how their mental health is impacted by maybe some of the decisions they make, some of the substances they have, and a lot of times the resources they have access to.
Yeah. And Jazz, I'm getting a little bit of feedback from your computer, and we just got a comment from a reader. Maybe if you go closer to the computer, the microphone will pick you up just a little bit better.
Okay, is that better?
Yeah, I think it might be. So let's just keep chatting and see what happens.
Okay, sounds good.
No problem at all. And yeah, that concurrent thing with addictions and mental health, so many people yeah, I know people who've gone to get help, and like you say, they go to get help for their addictions, like, no, you need to go to mental health, and then they go to mental health, and then they tell them to go to addictions, and so they're caught in this bubble.
Yeah.
And so I think it's really admirable that we're talking about that today, because we really haven't talked about that at Stigma-Free Society, and those concurrent disorders are just so common. They need to be addressed. So that's really great. And why don't we jump into Future Ready Minds? Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, so Future Ready Minds is basically Dr. Kang's. I'm still getting feedback.
No, you sound better.
Okay, do I? Okay. So Future Ready Minds basically is born out of Dr. Kang's book, The Dolphin Way. And then as well as her second book, The Tech Solution. So when we're looking at what is a future ready mind, we're looking at the innovation and the creativity and the skills we can provide young leaders. So this is play, which is play-based activities, getting others connected as well as downtime.
Okay, excellent. And how long have you been with Future Ready Minds again?
So I just started my role here in June. However, I've been stalking the work of Dr. Kang for the last 7 years. So I read her book, The Dolphin Way, about 7 years ago, and sort of incorporating that into my philosophy. And then when Tech Solution came out, because as a parent, I was really lost, right? Do I give my child the tablet? Do I give them the iPad or the iPhone? I'm like, they eat better sometimes when they have those devices. I get a little bit of a break. So really, jumping back and forth, and I was lost.
Yeah. Yeah, Dr. Shimi Kang is an amazing individual. She has really helped with consultation for the Stigma-Free Society and a lot of our resources. And Josh and Gia, her two kids, are virtual presenters that go into schools with us as well. She's raised some pretty amazing children.
Yep.
Yeah, I think anybody who works with her is pretty lucky for sure.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. And lucky to work with you as well. So I just wanted to, based on your experience, what are some of the primary issues you see in regards to mental health and wellness for young people?
Mm-hmm. So definitely we've seen an increase in anxiety and depression. Right. So those are the two biggest, I would say, concerns parents come to us with. And it often is related to some of the things that are happening within the home, some of the things that are happening with school, or some of the things that are happening with close family members. So when we look at anxiety and depression, we often think of, hey, these are adults. clinical diagnosis, right? So that transcending that barrier into younger children, sometimes we see social anxiety when parents go back to work after maternity leave, or when something significant happens in a form of a trauma to a young child. But now we're seeing the absence of these traumas, also seeing the increase in these diagnoses.
Yeah, definitely. And have you seen an increase in anxiety and depression over the years, or perhaps a surge during the pandemic for youth? What does that look like?
So that was a lot of isolations, most of it caused kind of by COVID. So navigating a new world. So switching to online learning, the access that children had to tech and screens for learning. Some of them did very well, like it was better for them. And others, we missed out on that social development piece, right? So being at home in front of a computer as opposed to interacting with the peers, missing out on a lot of kind of milestones when you talk about grad, first day of school, school dances. Like there's so many of these things that the kids kind of missed out on. And that
Yeah.
led to increased feelings of isolation, depression, loneliness, sadness, um, changes in schedule. So they're not up at the same time. They're not eating as much. They're not having that changes to their nutrition and diet because they're not having to use a school cafeteria or take lunch with them. They're kind of just grazing kind of at home, and then having
Yeah.
access to their phone at nighttime.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
sleep problems, sleeping in the mornings, or not getting enough.
Yeah. Do you think there's going to be a fallout from the pandemic and what youth have experienced with anxiety and depression? Like, what do you see that looking like in the future? And what can we do to potentially um, aid if there is a type of fallout, in your opinion?
Yeah. I mean, the key to this is early intervention, right? So if we know that because of the pandemic, now as research and studies are being released, we're seeing a lot of um, the World Health Organization saying there is an increase in anxiety and depression in children. So as parents and educators and facilitators, we need to be having conversations with these children and say, because of this, which is outside of all of our control, what are some of the things that are happening? Having that collaborative approach, sharing your feelings with them, some of the emotions that they're having, giving them the opportunity to have those feelings validated.
Yeah. Definitely. And I was thinking, like, as well with educators, specifically teachers, school counselors, they often feel very alone and helpless when not knowing how to help their students. Like, do you have
Mhm.
some strategies or things that they can apply in those situations?
Yeah, I mean, creating that safe environment is really important. So when we look at um, conversations that parents need to have, it's like building that rapport with your child, right? Whether
Mm.
it's a talk weekly or a 10-minute activity that you're doing together. So creating that bond where your child feels open to having that discussion with you. If it's a school counselor or educator, having these things kind of built into the curriculum.
Yeah.
So that was really a really heavy topic. I know we've talked about COVID a lot, right, through the news and whatnot. What has been the impact on you? And allowing kids to share, like, "Hey, I don't like wearing a mask," or "It's really confusing when I hear this and this," and giving them that space to share their
Yeah.
emotions.
Yeah. And that reminds me of the student mental health toolkit when you're talking about having conversations with families and parents and their children. We have conversation cards.
Yes.
And so, therefore, families, we have general mental health cards, we have parent based type cards. And I hope everybody can check that on the toolkit under the parents, caregivers, and guardians section. That section is wide open. And then you're
Mhm.
also talking about the lesson plans, which is very exciting to hear about because we also offer BC curriculum based lesson plans for educators to embed cross curricular mental health education. So it doesn't take them that extra time,
Yes.
but it embeds it within their curriculum. So there's a great match for Stigma-Free Society and your suggestions. It's really
Yeah,
great.
and I mean, we don't have to
Yeah.
reinvent the wheel either, right? Like, if these resources
Yeah.
are there, it's like we can share them, and I've often shared them with, parents in terms of, like, what do we need to do? And even Dr. King's book, The Tech Solution, there's 6 steps, in terms of a healthy tech diet that's laid out. So then parents can feel, that they're going to research-based resources to actually implement them.
Yeah.
So it's not that scary, and they're not just Googling, "What can I do?" It's stuff that's evidence-based and based on, other people who've tried it and it's worked for them.
Yeah. And we highlight Dr. Shimmy's work and videos and such in the
Yeah,
Student Mental Health Toolkit as well in that hub, right?
yeah.
Because finding valuable information like Dr. Kang to Autism BC as we deal with other stigmas, not just mental health, Rick Hansen.
Mhm.
So, yeah, having that hub and very grateful for Shimmy's contribution. And I like how you say as well the diet of tech.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
That's really a great way of putting it for sure. I got to think about my own diet sometimes.
Yes. Yeah.
So I was wondering about Future Ready Minds again. What are you doing to support the mental health needs of children and youth specifically?
So we've had, our programs in terms of Dolphin Kids running for a number of years now. And what we were seeing is when we were running the programs, there was always parents and educators that said, like, "My child needs additional support." And there was that gap. So with Future Ready Minds, we're still providing the programs and services. That's kind of international. A lot of different countries are picking that up. But the Future Ready Minds is to say, okay, well, we've got this need of counseling, but we need to provide parents with a one-to-one support. So that way they're removed out of that classroom program environment and they're paired with a one-to-one counselor. So
Hmm.
child
Yeah.
will get the sessions one to one to create that safe environment, but the parent will also get a session as well. They can do sessions together, and it's
Okay. And
creating that bond.
are those discounted or are they free? Or I was just curious about the access piece.
So, I mean, with all of our programs, all of our counselors are registered counselors, so all their fees are based on their own private colleges. So, with RCCs and registered social workers, we've got some psychologists, so there is a cost associated with it. But
Yeah.
parents who've got benefits can utilize counseling for their kids so they can get that back. If you're utilizing the services of a psychologist or a registered social worker, it's actually considered a medical expense, so you can write that off in your taxes.
Nice.
And if there
Great.
is people who are struggling that have gone through our programs, we will provide them the resources and program material as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really great to have that follow-up, right? It's great to have a session, but also I always say it's like homework, kind of take it home with you and
Yep.
learn a little bit more. Yeah, so mindfulness. So there's been a big push to bring mindfulness into the schools. And I was wondering if you can speak to this a bit because I do know of many schools in Vancouver, Metro Vancouver, where I presented or our presenters have presented. They do mindfulness sessions at the beginning in the morning.
Yeah.
And I found that to be really innovative and cool. And I was wondering if you could speak to that a bit.
So when we look at the classroom, kids spend more time in the classroom than they do at home. Okay. So if you look at the morning routine, right, kind of have your breakfast, get out the door, get to class, like there is already feelings of anxiety and kind of anxiousness that are brewing. So when you set a practice like mindfulness in the morning, it creates that safe space for that child. It alleviates those anxiety feelings that have already been brewing, and it gives them the opportunity to connect with others. Right? So
Yeah.
everyone is at the same playing field at that point. So it decreases conflict. So if I am irritated in the morning about like being rushed to go to school, I've now had a chance to decompress, do some deep breathing, and get rid of that irritability.
Okay. And for our audience, maybe some people don't know what mindfulness is. Can you explain a little bit maybe about the exercises or
Yeah.
how best to create a definition for people? Because it's a very trendy word. We hear it a lot, but maybe some people are just a little bit, foggy on it.
Yeah. So mindfulness is that practice of being present, right? So it's a being aware of your physiological responses, what's going on for your body, is being aware of what's going on in your head, right? So those
Yeah.
thoughts that are racing around, and is being aware of, okay, what is my purpose in terms of the surroundings? So when we get to work, when we get to school, being mindful when we're at home, it may be just kind of stretching out like a piece of dough the symptoms that we're having. So if I feel like really jittery, mindfulness is going to bring me down to the present and help me refocus on what I need to do. So that could be through deep breathing. It could be through any type of coping exercise. It could be through a visualization, a progressive muscle relaxation, a grounding even. So
Yeah.
it's whatever
No,
tool is going to
amazing.
work for that person.
Yeah. Yeah. And so in the beginning in your bio, I thought I was really interested. You mentioned cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, and then dialectical behavioral therapy, DBT. And it's very interesting to discuss therapies because we get a lot of questions at Stigma-Free Society about what can I do to help my
Mhm.
child or my friend. And so these types of therapies are just been life-changing for me personally, and also for many of my loved ones who have mental illness and just people I know in the community. So what's the difference between CBT and then DBT, dialectical behavioral therapy, versus cognitive behavioral therapy?
So cognitive behavioral therapy is looking at your thoughts, your decision making, and your behavior. Dialectical behavior therapy is looking more at your feelings, your moods, and kind of giving you scripts, I should say, or techniques that's going to dive deeper into those somatic experiences.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
And then DBT has that mindfulness component really
yes,
deeply embedded, right?
yes, yeah,
Okay.
and the thing is that there is even um a portion of CBT that has mindfulness, but it is more concentrating on what are the thoughts that I'm having right now, what are the emotions I'm having, and then what do I choose to do with it, right? Where emotions in terms of mindfulness and DBT is actually, let's talk about this. Let's talk about the multi layers of the things that I'm feeling, right? What's triggering it? What can I do? How am I feeling? What can I do to decrease some of these symptoms?
Yeah. And do you think both of those therapies are quite good for depression and anxiety, or how do they apply well?
I think depending on the person. So
Yeah.
at Future Ready Minds, like every single person gets an assessment, right? Because we want to know what works for them. So I'm not going to say, hey, here's Andrea, let me just give her some CBT. I'm going to say, hey, Andrea, I have got these two worksheets, right? This is what you got to do for one. This is what you got to do for other. What do you think is going to kind of work for you? And you're going to give me that feedback back and going, Jazz, I don't like this. This sounds more like me. You're going to have the ability to try it. So every single time you have a session or every single time we're working on tool building, that exchange between the two people is so important in terms of what is it that you'll actually do? What are your strengths and something that you'll stick to versus something that I just hand to you where you're like, okay, I have to do this.
Yeah, exactly. So tailoring that
Yeah.
treatment, which is so important, not one size fits all, correct?
Yes, definitely.
Exactly. So let's talk about holistic approaches to mental health and mental wellness. And I was wondering about your perspective on the holistic approaches, and not just to mental health, but overall health and well-being, and just your thoughts on that.
So when we look at a medical model, it usually goes to treatment,
Yeah.
right? So here's a problem, let me fix it. When you look at holistic approaches, we're going further back. So we're looking at your diet, your nutrition, your sleep, your mental health, your physical health, your emotional health, your financial health, right? Like, what is the whole picture? Because if we don't do that, we're going to miss a big part of it.
Yeah.
So sometimes people say to me, well, I have anxiety, right? Well, how much are you sleeping? Okay. And then I
Mhm.
say, well, what's your diet? Well, I've got 6 cups of coffee and I've got a lot of, I eat a lot of candy, right? With
Mhm.
children, especially, it's like, what are they consuming in terms of tech? How much sleep are they getting? How much rest are they getting? What type of foods are they eating that's going to help develop their brain versus, quick cravings and junk food?
Yeah. Yeah. And there's that diagram with the pie, right?
Yes.
And so there's
Yes.
those different slices of
Yep.
pieces of our life from work, as
Yep.
one piece of it, and personal, family, and then, like you say, diet, exercise. And there's all these pieces to the pie, and we really have to find balance as much as we can.
Hmm.
Like, it's obviously can be very difficult, right? Like, it
Yeah.
isn't easy to find balance in your life, but when you have people like yourself who are able to assist other people, counselors, social workers, doctors, psychologists, psychiatrists.
Yes.
It is possible,
Yeah.
definitely. So it's very inspiring and hopeful.
Hmm.
And there's so much value at looking at wellness from various lenses. I was wondering if you could speak a bit about the fusing of Eastern and Western values when it comes to healing and supporting mental health. So I think this is very interesting. I spoke with Dr. Arun Garg,
Hmm.
and he is a wonderful individual who talks about the best of the East and the best of the West. And I was just curious, do you have any thoughts on that?
I mean, growing up and being raised here in Canada, I often had even my own bias because my mom would suggest an Eastern or like a South Asian technique for something. And I'd be like, that's not going to work. Right. That's not going to make me feel better. Like I need medication or to take me to the doctor because there is this emphasis on Western medicine being more superior. Now,
Mhm.
the way that I think of it now is there's benefits of both.
Mhm.
So we can still utilize Western medicine, but we can also utilize Eastern techniques. So when we're looking at incorporating that holistic approach, when we're looking at incorporating, Chinese medicines, or when we're looking at incorporating, traditional methods that's been used for centuries, right? And
Mhm.
people have found benefit of it. It's like whatever is going to work for that person, you're going to give it to them. So if somebody's having a heart attack, I'm not going to say to them, here, try yoga. I'm going to say, let's figure out the heart attack and bring you down and medically treat you. But let's put in a plan afterwards that's going to have some holistic approaches as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And then yoga and meditation, mindfulness, this is
Yeah.
all Eastern philosophies and
Yeah.
medicine, and acupuncture to
Yes.
Chinese medicine. And we know it's becoming more and more
Yeah.
well known, and especially around people that I've seen in the community and
Yeah.
talked to
Yeah.
more than ever, don't you
Yeah.
think?
Yeah, and especially
Yeah.
like indigenous practices as well, right? Like living in here in
Yes.
BC, like the benefits of smudging, the benefits of the hot saunas, the benefits of
Mhm.
the sweat lodges. Like that's a culture
Mhm.
that's been reliant so much on traditional medicine, and it's been used to heal people with phenomenal results, right? And we can't overlook that.
Yeah. Yeah, I always admire Indigenous families and elders and mentors,
Yeah.
and that really contributes to positive mental health right there, having that community.
Yes.
So I think that's it's also very effective too. So is there anything else you'd like to address regarding any of the topics we covered today, or leave people with some wisdom or knowledge that you'd like to share as we close up?
I know. I think for me, the biggest thing that what I see in practice and I see with the clients that are coming through the doors is early intervention is key. So a lot of the times when we talk about stigma attached to counseling, people think, oh, well, now I have to take my kid to counseling. And have I failed as a parent? Or, what? Maybe it's something that I'm not doing right. So when we
Mhm.
look at counseling with children, it's very different because we're not looking at, years and years of issues and trauma and negative thought patterns. We're looking at and working with, and we're actually being proactive, right? So the early intervention is going to help them succeed more long term because they're going to get those skills. They're going to be able to utilize these approaches as opposed to waiting till, their late teens or early adulthoods where they're entering university, or even, the workforce, and they're going, well, now I'm stressed, now I have anxiety, and I don't know what to do with it.
Yeah. Early intervention. You're never too young to learn about mental health. You're never too young to explore your own mental health. And it goes all the way to kindergarten, right? I think
Yes.
it's very important that people remain open to having these conversations about stigma and mental health, because the more that we talk about it, we can dispel that stigma, which holds us back in shame. And
Yes.
nobody should ever have to endure that. So
No,
thank you for
absolutely.
all the work that you
Thank
do.
you.
I
Yeah.
really enjoyed talking with you today, and I was hoping you could share how people could find you, more about your work, more about Future Ready Minds. And could you share a bit about that?
Yeah, so you can definitely connect with us on our website. Our Instagram handle is Dolphin Kids Achievement. So through there, you can be linked to some of our programs, see some pictures, what we're involved with, and then FutureReadyMinds.com has all of our details in terms of our website. And Dolphin Kids is also our website that has all of our information on our website. So if you Google that, you can reach any one of us. And then we've got a team of excellent counselors, excellent program facilitators. And if anybody's got questions, you can always feel free to send us an email. We'll be glad to help.
And lastly, are there any, like, quickly, any books you can recommend for people that you like? Like, I know you read initially a book from Dr. Shimi Kang 7 years ago. Do you
Yes.
want to maybe share some
Yeah,
titles?
so I mean, the dolphin way, but then there's also the tech solution, right? So when we talk about a lot of the topics that we discussed today, like Dr. Kang has really explained them really well. And my favorite chapter is the solutions chapter because when I'm reading anything, I'm kind of like, okay, I understand what's going on, but tell me what to do with it now. So she's breaking it down into the 6 steps and what's really going to be helpful for parents.
Amazing. Perfect. All right, Jazz, stay on the line. I'd like to thank you personally after the broadcast. So thank you so much. It's been wonderful meeting you through Dr. Shimi Kang, and we'll definitely keep in touch. So stay on the line. And I just wanted to thank everybody for our viewers. Many people also view after we have broadcasted the event live. So thank you for watching as well. Feel free to share on your social networks. And also, please visit stigmafreesociety.com. And we would love for you to talk about and share with as many people as possible the studentmentalhealthtoolkit.com. So thank you, everybody. Thank you for contributing to a stigma-free world. We appreciate you, and we could not do the work that we do without you. So thank you very much. Have a lovely day.